For God's sake, this man cannot remain in power. Expressing the moral outrage I felt toward the way Putin is dealing in the actions of this man.
That was President Biden speaking Saturday and then again today about Russian President Vladimir Putin. After the White House initially walked back his statement on Putin not remaining in power over the weekend, the president doubled down on that statement today. Joining me now for more is Ukrainian Member of Parliament Inna Sovsun. Thanks for being here. And first, I just want to get your reaction to President Biden saying Putin cannot stay in power and then the White House walking back the idea of regime change. What did you make of that?
Well, sorry, we're just hearing some major explosions from from somewhere, trying to figure out if it is getting closer. Sorry for that.
Do you need to get somewhere safe?
Well, there is nowhere safe, to be honest, but it seems to be rather distant, but it's just very loud. It's been going on the whole night, and we're 6:30 in the morning. I'm just trying to figure out what is happening there. But anyways, back to your question. Well, first of all, I do understand the moral outrage that President Biden is feeling. I share it as well. I don't think that Putin should be running the country or be alive for that matter. I will be as blunt as saying that. I think he is a disgusting human being, and I really hate the very fact that he exists. And I do believe that everyone here in Ukraine does share this feeling. In terms of further explanations by President Biden, from what I understand is that he was saying that this is his moral judgment, not a policy proposal, if you call it this way. But I think this very moral judgment and this moral explanation is also important, because when President of the United States says that this is basically a disgusting human being, that means that the United States does understand that this is a huge threat, not just to Ukraine, but actually to the whole world. So, I'll be honest, it was important for us to hear that, even though of course we wanted to hear more about the specific help Ukraine will be getting, but hearing this statement was actually important to us, and we're grateful for that.
Of course, and I can't even believe you can focus right now on answering that question. Tell us more about what's been happening today, the explosions on the ground, the explosions that you're hearing now.
Well, yesterday, and again, we're 6:30 in the morning here in Ukraine, so yesterday was about 12 hours ago, we did hear some good news that Ukrainian army regained control over the city of Irpin, which is northwest of Kyiv. The Russians have been basically holding it from the first two days of war, and there were major battles taking place over there. But Ukrainian army has regained control over the city, but it seems that right now they're trying to regain control over other cities around Kyiv, and the Russian army is fighting back. So we have been hearing these explosions actually the whole night. I didn't get that much sleep because we would hear them every 40 minutes or so. We didn't get that many air raid alerts this night. So it seems like that means that this is happening on the ground. It is not a missile strike, but that is happening on the ground. And I, of course, very much hope that this is the Ukrainian army fighting against the Russians. But we don't have a way of knowing. We just hear the explosions and we just hope that it is somewhere distant.
That must be terrifying for you. Do you have a basement or somewhere you can go, a bomb shelter nearby?
Well, we do, but if you get those sounds every 40 minutes during the night, you don't really have the ability to go downstairs every day. So what I did, basically, I'll be honest with you, I just slept in my wardrobe, because that is the room without any windows. And it seems that, that is the major threat that we have. Unless the missile hits your house, then you are that is really bad. But the bigger threat is people staying inside their rooms with windows, and the windows just break, and they can really make lots of damage, and they can kill people. So it is advised at least not to stay near the windows.
It's
so
just
that is
unbelievable that you're live on television with us. You're still doing your job. You're still able to think clearly, and you're sleeping in a closet, in a wardrobe. It must be so terrifying for you. I'll let you go shortly, but I wanted to ask you what you think about the intelligence in Ukraine saying, these new developments that Putin wants to split Ukraine into two countries. How is that being received?
Well, I will tell you this. Ukraine, as any nation, have its internal divisions. It did have internal divisions in terms of how people are treating Russia. There were many people who were in favor of rather friendly relations with Russia. I even knew some of those people. The first days of war, many of those people signed up for military. They signed up for volunteer services. And right now, 98% of Ukrainians thinks that Russia is our enemy and they want to fight against it. Ukraine has never been as united as it is right now because of Vladimir Putin. So when he is saying that he wants to make Ukraine divided, well, probably the only result he achieved is made us as united as we have never been. And I'm actually seeing many people, including again those who have been rather pro-Russian before, they are trying to protect Ukraine right now. The military, Azov, who is now fighting against Russia in Mariupol, they are 90% a Russian-speaking battalion, and they're fighting as hard as they can in order to protect Mariupol. That is what is important for everyone to know. We are not split in any way possible right now.
All right, Inna Sovsun, thank you so much for joining us. Stay safe. Thanks for watching. Click the red subscribe button below so you can get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.